If you asked anybody that follows Halo, I bet they would say that Halo Wars 2 is dead, and that's a shame because, in many ways, Halo Wars 2 was a time capsule of days long thought forgotten, story-wise with the Spirit of Fire coming back after so long in the lore, and the return of the classic art style with competent characters to boot. However, Halo Wars as a series is not talked about enough anymore, and that's for good reason, as support for this game has long since vanished. But where does that leave the game now? Do people still play it, and are people like me who barely play RTSs able to still have a good time? My name is Spencer, and join me as I boot up one of the best Halo games in over a decade, and maybe figure out how abandoned it actually is. And it didn't take me long to find that answer to that question. It took me less than 30 seconds to find a game. That's crazy impressive for a game that came out in 2017. I know there have been a ton of bugs on Halo Wars 2. One of the most common is when you're playing and you will suddenly lag out and unable to rejoin the game for some reason. So you may have just wasted 30 minutes of your life without attacking a single enemy, or being stuck in a 2v3 against an AI, or even a 1v3 at some points. But what I played, I had a ton of fun, and I even decided to replay some bits of the campaign, and man, I forgot how cool this game feels. You always have something to do, and that distracts you so much from the actual real world time. By the time you look up, 30 minutes have already passed, and you're not even sending out Marines or even captured a second base. And that's the sign of a good game loop, that you're able to be completely captured by the game. And although the time commitment may be a lot to a ton of people, that hasn't stopped the hardcore player base from leaving anytime soon. When replaying this game for footage, I noticed just how large of a skill gap each hero has, how even each player has from one another. While I was building up my forces, I had guys attacking bases only for me to show up at the very end to clean up the mess. Because nobody really plays this game, it's just a ton of veteran players. It was really interesting to see how each approach a game. I was 5 seconds late to starting, so when I tried to spawn in, I tried to go to the power things, and all of them were claimed, unless I had to go fuck off to the other side of the map to claim some resources. One of my other games, I did a complete Warthog rush, and I was really the only one doing anything, and yes, I was just playing against AI, because God knows how poor that footage would have been if I went up against real players. But even on the same map, it felt like each game was different every single time you spawned in. Even if you're spawning in on the same side, the same location as the same hero, it felt different. There's always a little wrench into the plan, and that's what makes games like Halo Wars so repetitive and so replayable. And I do have a lot of gripes with this iteration into the Wars duology here. The generator system in Halo Wars 1 was just so much easier to understand as opposed to the power system, which means there's a needless amount more of resource management. It's not terrible, I mind you, but you only need 2 base slots to be fully upgraded, as opposed to power stations, which you probably need to have 5 or 6 to be as efficient as possible for the amount of upgrades this game has. If you want to send out Warthog rushes, it took me forever to actually just assemble the army worthwhile to attack. And when I played my Halo Wars 1 main Anders in this game, it took forever to assemble a fleet of Sentinels. And maybe this is just me talking through rose-tinted glasses, because I don't hate the systems at all here. I just prefer the first games more. And that's okay, because I bet a lot of you started with this game first and find Wars 1 archaic. And that's fine. Enjoy what you want to enjoy, as long as we can agree we deserve a Halo Wars 3. If Halo Wars 2 was released today, it would have been praised by people everywhere for not having a shop or a battle pass, but I bet you those same people wouldn't actually buy Halo Wars 2, and it would end up in the exact same place it was after the Awakening the Nightmare DLC released, completely dead in the water. And that's maybe the worst part. This was the only original game in the 343 era, not even made by them, I mind you, that was overall positive. But the biggest problem is that not only is it a side game, it's a genre of games most people don't play. RTS is by far not the most niche genre out there, but it's a very different form from the core identity that Halo has been since 2001. But that's just that. I don't think Halo Wars 2 is ever really alive in the way people think, not the mainstream hundreds of thousands of players sense. It wasn't Halo 3 on a Friday night, or even Halo Infinite numbers at launch. Halo Wars 2 has always lived in a strange little corner of the franchise, just like its predecessor. It was a pick up and drop it after a week, or even just play the campaign and throw it back on the shelf, which in all honesty is probably not too bad for a niche thing like a Halo RTS. The game was at its most populated when it had the content cycle, new heroes coming every few months, new maps, new campaign experiences, when you were able to truly experiment with your own playstyle, but find somebody else that you may like better. It was the same problem Halo 5 Warzone had, the same problem Halo Infinite had. I think you get the point. It always comes down to content with games. The second people think you don't have it anymore, there's no way to put that lightning back in the bottle. But it scratches a different itch, and I think that's what makes it feel so refreshing in today's gaming climate, especially now that so many games feel like a checklist or a barrier to entry into spending $100 in an item shop somewhere. So to everyone still booting up this game, still running around memeing with Yap Yap and keeping this small community alive, you guys are some real ones. You are the reason I was able to hop in and have a great time after all of these years. Seriously, shout out to you guys. And look, I know the chances of Halo Wars 3 are somewhere between slim to none, and get the fuck out of my office. But if Halo Studios is serious about being and wanting a fresh start, maybe we should get it. Because Halo needs more games like this, games that aren't afraid of that mainstream, and to take risks and to do something that the mainline titles could never do. Halo Wars 2 and its predecessor proved that you can take games in the Halo universe, flip the genre on its head, and still come out with something special. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy what I do, maybe consider checking out some other stuff. Thank you so much.